The idea isn't that you put something out there that's not good. The idea is that you put something out there that functions exactly as needed in order to get the exact right feedback.
Do you have a brilliant product idea but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin, and we are
The Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits. Duh! We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to
The Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi. Tell me this. What if your sourcing agent lived in your browser? Meet Axio. This is Alibaba's AI-powered sourcing engine that understands what you need. It matches you with pre-vetted suppliers. It analyzes trends. It even helps with compliance. If you want to test for a special certification or custom specs, Axio handles that. With the new Axio agent, it automates requests for quotes and follow-ups as well. Even us, the Sourcing Gals, we have used it to cut sourcing time from weeks to minutes. And with our code, the Sourcing Gals, your first month is just $1. Then $19.99 per month after that. If you're launching or scaling a product business, this tool changes the game. Try Axio with our code today.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Sourcing Gals. Okay, today we're putting our teacher hats on.
Yes.
Educational. We're going to talk about how you nail that first bulk order.
And I am going to say, I bet it's not what you think.
Yeah.
I bet it's not what you think because no one tells founders about this, but really your first manufacturing order is not just about accruing inventory.
No, it's like a test and learn opportunity to ensure that your product works.
To ensure that it works, to ensure that your factory is making it properly, to ensure that you have the right audience. Like,
correct.
It is so important to test out your idea in a bigger way than samples.
Correct.
But a smaller way than you need a warehouse.
Exactly. And so it's less about truly making money. We want you to make money on every order. Do not get me wrong. But this first production run is less about making it rain.
It's more about avoiding losing money.
Correct.
And it's so funny. We just had this conversation. We were eating lunch before we were recording, and we were having this conversation about one of our clients. And we even said to each other, this isn't about like blowing it out of the park with a margin. This is about pressure testing an idea.
Correct. And a lot of times people think, oh, now that I found the factory, all is good, right? We hear that a lot.
Right.
And it's like, there are so many things that need to happen before that, but then also a lot of mistakes that happen after it.
A lot of mistakes that happen after it. And I think part of it is excitement.
Agree?
People, I've been guilty of this.
Yes.
I get very excited. I have found the factory. I have a prototype. It works exactly like it did in my mind. Let's buy 1 billion. Not quite 1 billion.
Yes.
Let's buy a bunch.
Yeah.
And really, it's like, let's slow it down to speed it up. There are some things we need to do.
For sure. So let's talk about a few things. First, you find that factory and then you rush to production because you're trying to hit some imaginary timeline that you've made up in your head as to when you should actually launch.
Yes. And I mean, I do think that people should have a benchmark. But it's like, where does that benchmark exist? Like, and why does it exist?
Yeah.
And does it exist because you're trying to get the best product or because, again, you're rushing yourself?
Yeah. And I think it can go the flip side too, right? You give yourself almost too much runway that next thing you know, you're on your 5th sample round and it's like, oh crap, Like
we've worked with people in both worlds.
we have. So I think it's important to understand, have that real clarity before you talk to the factory, right? We teach this in our Smart Start sourcing course, but really making sure you have clarity before you get to the factory. And then once you do get the factory going and sampling, that you have the tools to facilitate a really efficient sampling process until you're ready to go to bulk.
Until you're ready to go to bulk, all of the checks and balances in place to make sure that that first round of bulk order is perfect. And that's part of it. It actually makes me think about someone else we were talking to yesterday who went into a bulk order and had a pretty big variance to their specs.
Correct.
And then couldn't sell their product.
Yes.
And you had someone you talked to almost a year ago.
Yes. It was a
zipper.
zip pouch, like a tote, like a cute little zip pouch that went in. It was one of the items in a slew of many that this founder, had worked on. And unfortunately, when the goods arrived, the zippers didn't work. And I had asked her, did you get a TOP? And she kind of said, like, what is that? So that top of production sample, that final checkpoint that we talk about before you say, yes, please ship the goods, you're ideally getting something truly off the production line, the top of production line sample sent to you to at least ensure, even if production is done by the time you get it, that it works.
Right. And I don't think that the two scenarios we just gave were extremes. But what we're talking about here is walking before you run. Even if your product is viable, even if it works, even if it's exactly like you spec'd it, when you bring it in and you sell that first 50 pieces, you're going to have feedback.
Yep.
You're going to have feedback. So it's really about ensuring that what's you want to receive is what you're receiving in a controllable, small scale way.
Yeah. I mean, I had my own focus group that I had worked my own product-based pajama business on, and the focus group feedback was great. So I, in turn, assumed that meant everybody wants to buy my product, right? And so my first bulk production run, and especially I come from a warped world of corporate retail where purchase orders are on the very large size. So I felt like my opening order was small, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I thought, how hard is it going to be to get through 1,000 units of this style? Well, I'm going to tell you, audience members, I'm still sitting on units from my initial bulk production run. Yeah, because I also, to your point about learning, I launched in the postpartum market, quickly realized that my menopause, perimenopause market is 80 to 90% of my volume now. I didn't even have that idea when I started my product. Mm-hmm. So now I launched a product in a space that I thought I was going to dominate. Quickly got feedback that, like, great, glad you're servicing that woman, but there's this whole other demographic that needs your product technology way more. And so, we didn't pivot, we expanded, but that means that one market that I launched and started servicing is now 10% of my business. So imagine it's 10% of my sales also.
Right.
So now I'm sitting on inventory that I'd love to evolve for that market, for that postpartum market, but my hands are tied. I have inventory there. I need to sell it. Right. So again, from learning, I never would have thought when I launched that this is where I would be at the end of it. So again, if you're able to start in a smaller scale way, again, unless you have a massive audience, right? If you have a huge following and you know exactly what they're asking for, okay, we're not talking about those people. We're talking about innovative product ideas, new to market, maybe you're having to build the audience, like all of these reasons why starting smaller is the right move.
Right. And getting proof of concept, getting testimonials,
yes,
getting your product in people's hands and getting it used. So I have a product that I designed and produced and brought in solely for the purpose of giving it away and letting people try it. And I only ordered a couple hundred. And I knew this is a very technical functional product. I knew that there was going to be feedback immediately. And so that was the goal.
Yep.
The goal was just get it in people's hands, get them using it, get feedback, get testimonials, and then place that multi-$1,000 order.
Yeah.
Multi-thousand piece order.
Yeah. It's really, really smart. So let's talk a little bit about the sampling process, because I think we meet so many founders that are in this hamster wheel of sampling. Sampling, getting it in, not right, reiterating, sampling, getting it in. It's still not there, reiterating, right? So we've dealt with quite a few and helped navigate quite a few founders through this journey. And so I think when you know, I think there's founders at different points of this because of different reasons. Some founders actually know what they want and they're trying to reinvent something to a place that maybe doesn't need to be reinvented to.
Right. Correct.
Right. Like we have our one founder who we love. Shout out, you know who you are. And, you know, she had been testing this item using retail ready fabric and it worked great.
Right.
But in her mind, you know, and us included, we thought, oh, well, it needs to hit this and this, and maybe we should evolve. Maybe we can make it better. Maybe, and at the end of the day, we've circled right back to basically duping that retail fabric that she loved and tested for years, to be honest. I think she wore tested literally for 2 years. So, you know, we thought we were helping improve it. She thought it was going to be improved. And turns out where we started was totally great.
Right. So like kind of what you're talking about is there's this balance between reinventing the wheel and actually making something better, iterating on it. And I think that there's the mindset that it should be perfect to go to market. It should be exactly what you want, which in theory is great. But there's also this mindset of like a minimum viable product, like something that serves the market well enough so that you can get feedback, so that you can then iterate, not in your own, just like solo silo.
Correct.
Solo silo. Say that 5 times fast. But if you are alone over here in your home office, dreaming up this idea and you keep iterating, you're iterating based on what?
Correct.
And so the idea isn't that you put something out there that's not good. The idea is that you put something out there that functions exactly as needed in order to get the exact right feedback.
And I think that feedback then, again, assuming you haven't done the dumb bonehead move like me and bought thousands of units of inventory, it allows you to adapt and evolve. It allows you to let your brand breathe. I think all brands need to breathe. It is okay to have your V1 be very different than your V2 versus your V10 of the same item. I mean, this is what brands do. If you go back to the olden days of, you know, I bet even Sarah Blakely's OG Spanx probably looked very different when she launched to where she was, you know, 10 years in, 15 years in, 20 years in, right? So it is okay for products to evolve and get better.
And I think I want to clarify that it's got to function the way you want it to.
Fair.
Like your fabric, you evolved in terms of your demographic.
Yes.
But your fabric has always functioned wonderfully.
Correct.
I'm sure Sarah Blakely evolved in terms of being able to go to the bathroom while wearing them. Do you remember the OG Spanx?
Yes.
You had to pull the entire thing down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So they evolved, but they still functioned.
Correct.
So you need to get the function 100% right. And that's an area you should not rush through. Don't rush your factory. Don't get too cart before the horse. You're so excited. You're going to place 1,000 units before you even like got the function there. Get the function there. Aesthetics and demographic, those are the things you're really going to flesh out in that test order.
Correct. And I think that it's that fine balance between when is a sample good enough versus not. You know, and everyone, we all want perfection, right? Like you want perfection, but I always say put that consumer hat on. They have not seen your previous rounds of samples. The first time they're going to see it is wherever you end up. So is that good enough? Is it close enough to being perfect that someone, only you, is really going to know the difference?
If you're building a product-based business and finding yourself second-guessing decisions or wishing you had someone to gut check, we want you to know you don't have to do this alone.
On January 1st, we're opening the Sourcing Gals Founder Circle, our private community for product-based founders.
Inside, you'll get monthly Q&A calls with us, access to our templates, scripts, and tools, and most importantly, a community of founders building right alongside you.
It's only $27 a month, or for a limited time, $247 for the year. That's 3 months free. You can find all the details in the show notes. Hope to see you there.
Sure. And again, with the evolution, even the fashion, we're talking about function here, but even the fashion retail market, every season it's perfecting what it put out the season before. Like if it put out a sweatshirt that went gangbusters, maybe the next season it tweaks it just slightly based on some of the feedback. So it's not lazy, it's not shortcuts, it's not putting something out before it's ready. It is learning.
Correct.
In a controlled way to where you're not wasting a ton of money.
Yep. And time. And time. Because every month you're not launching, you're not learning.
Right. Right. I like would shout that from the rooftop. I couldn't.
Every month you're not launching, you're not learning. We should like trademark that. Or that was good. That wasn't chat. That was me.
You came up that out of your head.
I did.
Perimenopause brain does not exist.
Watch out, brain fog. You don't belong here.
Didn't get her today.
No, I am on it today. So let's talk a little bit as we're going through the sampling process, right? We're trying to get to that ideally perfect, if not perfect, good enough sample. Let's also make sure that we're being very clear about our costs and our margin. I know we talk about this time and time again. So we also talk about how when you go to market, what your margin looks like versus when you're scaling at market.
Yes.
It's okay for that to be different.
As long as you know.
You have to know that at scale, you're in a good place.
Let's go back to the conversation we were having right before lunch. It's a fashion brand. And we said, we know that the margins here coming out of the gate with low units are going to be tight.
Yep.
But we also know that if the plan is great, if it works, if this sells out, the second order will be in the perfect margin spot. And we even talked to a client about that last week, and who she went through our launch program where we did like the business plan for her fashion brand. And we said, this margin looks good. It looks good, a little better than good, but it will be great at scale.
Correct. And I think something else important to note with this client, we were talking about before lunch that has the fashion brand, the options they have right now are take a little bit more expensive styles that we can produce faster because the factory, they already exist. The fit blocks that we're using, like the fabric that we're using, it all exists right now.
We're not starting from scratch.
We're not starting from scratch. So what that allows is speed to market. So while she might be taking a 20% hit on that margin, right? We ideally want them to be at 70. She might be out the door on some items at a 50, which people might be like, that's so low. Again, this is a test. This is the first time out the door, but it's going to be quality product. And guess what? She's going to be able to hit the delivery for what the retail landscape is expecting. Like she's going to hit back to school.
Peak season,
like she's got to hit this back to school fall sports season, call it. And so the options are start from scratch, get a better margin, but probably miss your initial delivery, which is going to be a big test window and learning for you. Or you're going to take a little bit lower margin, but we're going to get you there faster to learn quicker. And then with your next order, we're going to start from scratch, from the bottom up, and get you all that margin back.
Absolutely.
So again, that was something where, from a timing perspective, to get to market quicker, to learn faster, we're going to be basically offering up those as options to her.
Right. Because that initial cost from your factory, that isn't necessarily your long-term business plan. So you have to take both of those into consideration and then choose.
Yeah.
Choose the option that moves you along in a manageable, controlled way.
Correct. And we talk about cost a lot as well from your factory, right? That's just one part of your cost, the factory cost. Now, if they're quoting you FOB, which means freight on board, which means from the country, not importing it, you have to add the duties and the freight and the land, all of it to get it here. We also are big proponents of asking your vendor for that DDP or LDP cost, which is basically the vendor's going to pay your duties They're going to import it for you on your behalf. So that's your product cost. But then make sure you're not forgetting, right, those other costs that go in, the shipping, the touching, how you're packing. We spent a lot of time actually talking with clients about their packaging.
Labels.
That was actually one of our founder circles conversations we had, right? It was like, I want my brand to feel a certain way. I want a certain experience, but at what cost to margin? And, we had a lot of great conversation about it. And also one of the ideas was, well, this woman runs a fashion brand. So every, couple months, she's dropping new styles. So it's like, would your customer even notice if you increased your retail on that item by $2? Maybe not. But if all of a sudden your packaging now is this whole better experience and feels more aligned to your brand, like that might be a way to look at it, right? Or where are you making concessions? Where are you going to take a generic poly bag and add a sticker to buy less versus customize it, which we know you're in like the thousands if you really want a printed poly bag, right? So it's a lot of give and take. It's a lot of give and take, but there's all these different ways to approach it. And at the end of the day, what do you want the experience to be?
Right.
For that customer, but it has to still make financial sense.
Correct. And so I want to go back to that is that the experience is paramount, but you have to look on paper at what that cost is going to look like at scale to determine if it's the right move to make now.
Correct.
If you make a move now and you're like, this is great, I love this, at scale, it's still not great, it still doesn't margin, then you need to make different decisions.
Correct. So I think understanding all those components of cost while you're sampling, while your initial launch, and then when you're actually full to bulk, right? All of those costs are important because they all, ideally, the cost should all go down.
All good.
As your volume goes up. And sometimes, I know I mentioned this in the other week in a podcast, like we've quoted things with 2 vendors where that first cost out of the gate for 500 units, there was a high and a low. But as they scaled, those costs completely inverted.
Correct.
So we ended up going with the more expensive vendor for the small order because we knew at scale it was going to be better.
Yeah, correct. Like we could, for the exact scenario Jackie's talking about, we could get just like 200 units at a pretty high cost. We knew that at 1,000 units, it was going to be like a quarter of the cost. And then for the other one at 1,000 units, it was still going to be high. Like, so it really made sense to go with the vendor who enables you to scale and see really big return on that investment.
So I think when you are also talking about this initial production run, really understanding that MOQ and making sure you're utilizing it to your best ability. We never say you want to just buy off of an MOQ as a strategy. We don't agree with that. But as you are still in learning phase, there's lots of ways to approach MOQ. I know for one of our clients, we actually bulk bought materials, but only utilized part of it because the factory was willing to sit on the balance for us, right? I do that with my fabric. Right now, my factory just emailed me. They're like, hey, when are you cutting the rest of that fabric, Jackie? Because they're sitting on it because I only had them cut a portion because I wanted to test and learn my new silhouettes. Now I have my size selling. Now I know how my new silhouettes are selling. I had my friend Mary from Boone, inventory planning. She just re-rolled my entire plan for spring, basically in summer.
Nice.
Taking my existing size selling inventory, my style selling, and has now basically given me an output of here's all my reorders now by size, by style, right? So that was important for me to learn.
Right.
So I can react because turns out different styles sold differently than I thought.
It gave you data.
Definitely gave the data. So I think understanding your MOQs, understanding what is the minimum, and then can you pay more to go lower? If that MOQ is still really high and uncomfortable, a lot of times vendors will actually go lower. You're going to pay for it. So net, you might net out with 500 units at one price versus 250 at another might be the same dollars. But maybe you don't want 500 lamps.
Oh my goodness, the lamps. We talk about the lamps all the time. For a refresher, if you're new here, the cost to buy 100 lamps was going to be the same cost if I bought 50 lamps. I was like, well, duh, I'm buying 100 lamps. Do you know how many lamps I still have in my basement?
Anyone need a lamp? DM Erin.
DM me. I can give you a lamp. I still have 49 in my basement. 49 lamps.
So the 50 would have been perfect. You would have had 100% sell-through.
50 would have been great. 50 would have been great. But, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And
we're we're supposed to be the ones that know it, right? And we're sitting here telling you. So also give yourself grace.
well, that was my point earlier in mentioning like fashion brands that continually reiterate, and like mentioning Sarah Blakely and the iteration of Spanx, is that everybody's always learning, and we're always learning because who we're selling to is always changing. Their preferences, their styles, it's not like just our opinions changing. The landscape to whom we're selling to is constantly changing. So therefore our approach to it will also constantly be changed.
Correct.
So you just need to be agile. I mean, how many times we worked for a $4 billion company? How many times did we miss the mark? Like every season on something.
Yes.
And what we're getting at is that making mistakes happens. You, as an individual, as a startup, don't have the funds, though, to just take mistake after mistake. So you need to be a little bit more cognizant, run those tests, and to tag on to what I said earlier about the multi-billion-dollar company we worked for, we also ran tests.
Oh my gosh, it was my life. I think I've talked about this before. I mean, I was in graphic t-shirts. I was not allowed to put an all-store graphic t-shirt in stores unless it was tested. I had a 100% tested assortment. It was wild. I was running 2 businesses at once, basically.
Your test business.
Domestic testing, and then your roll to bulk, manufacturing for what was working, basically. But let me tell you, we had not only amazing margin, but we had an incredible what you call sell-through, meaning if you buy 100 shirts, for example, how many units do you sell through, right? And
before it goes
to clearance. And ideally, if you can get up to like a 75%, you're like making it rain. If you get an 80 or 90% sell-through at full price, like hell yeah, like you're really dropping money to the bottom line. So we were able to do that. So we not only had great margin going out the gate, but then the bottom line numbers were good because we were tested and proven. Yeah. And that's for a $1 billion company. They were doing that.
Right. So it's not abnormal. If you go to a factory and you say, hey, I know your MOQ is 1,000. I am testing this viability with my demographic. I'd like to see how much lower we can get, with the hopes that we will reorder shortly thereafter. Usually a factory owner will work with you.
Yeah. So let's say you've gone to sample, you've understood your risk tolerance, you've gotten the, if not perfect, the good enough, close to good enough, sample, and you're going through it. We also want to make sure you don't place that purchase order and feel like, oh, now I sit and wait. Right now, the hard work is done. It's like hard work was done, but the most important work, I almost want to say, is ahead of you, which is ensuring that your bulk production actually matches what you approved.
Right. Right. And this is where starting small and testing really comes into play, because if there is a deviation, you don't have a deviation for 20,000 units.
Correct.
You have a deviation for 200, 500, 1,000. And you can probably fix that, and you can be more agile. It's really that agility, but also the sheer work that comes with managing all of that production. If you had a 25 SKU assortment, and for each SKU you had thousands of units, like you'd be managing quite a lot.
Yeah. So we really want to make sure, like our biggest thing, that you are seeing that perfect sample. We call it a PP sample, pre-production, that perfect sample before you place your PO, but just as important, if not equally important, I'll say. I mean, depends on the way you look at it. You need to be also receiving a top of production sample, a TOP sample. Every email you have with your factory, every time they give you an outline of your timing called a TNA, timing in action, your PP and your TOP approval should be in there. If it is not, you're going to be the expert and you're going to call it out to them, because that is your final checkpoint before goods get on a plane to come to you, before they get on a boat to come to you, that what you are seeing looks good.
And I will just scooch right in here to say that when you get that PP sample, when you get that TOP sample, you're always measuring it or comparing it back to your approved sample.
Correct.
You're not looking at it in a vacuum.
Correct.
You're not just saying, do I like this? Okay, well, is it correct to what I approved? Mm-hmm. Because everybody needs a benchmark, and the factory and you have the same benchmark that you've approved. And so that's a way to create consistency through production. Here is my approved sample. My PP sample matches my approved sample. My TOP sample matches my PP sample. everything's a go. Sometimes there will be variations. And at that point, you have to ask yourself, how do I feel about this variation? Is it, like you said earlier, the consumer hat? Like, will my customer know or be put off by this? And then if not, it's documenting. I think documentation just doesn't happen probably as much as it needs to, especially with new folks. They may not know that you can tell your factory, like, this does not match spec. This is a half an inch too short, but I do generally like how it turned out. I am going to proceed with bulk. For future orders, we would want to match this. Like, this is the new standard, so that you're not just all over the place, but really about documentation and about always going back to like a perfect standard as your form of measurement, so that you're not comparing something to like a moving target.
Correct. So we've talked a lot about this entire sample to first bulk production order, right? Trying to really navigate from a financial standpoint, what makes sense, from a learning standpoint, what makes sense with your factory. Just remember, this first bulk order is by no means the finish line.
No.
Like, you are really just getting started on your product journey. I mean, it's a big step, right?
It's a big step.
It's a huge step, but know that it is the first step of hopefully many following orders that you can continue to refine and get even more specific and even more drilled down. And I'm telling you, when you can start bringing more volume, it just becomes so much easier for your factory to make those accommodations.
So our goal here really is to show you that you need to nail your first bulk order to get the best first manufacturing experience you can. You start small. You document changes. You always ask for samples, PP and TOP. You make sure your cost is really drilled down, both on a small scale and at larger scale, and keep it all very contained, very controlled, very just like well run, so that when you do amp up, things aren't out of control.
Correct. I think that perfectly tied it in a bow. Erin?
Little handkerchief bow like you're wearing today.
I know. I'm vibing on the neckerchief. See,
I love
talking about accessory trends, right? How one year it's the belt, the next year it's the. I'm like, neckerchiefs are back, and I'm here for it.
Did we talk about that in this podcast?
I don't remember. Now that you say that, I was like, I think that was a different podcast that we might have recorded earlier today, or a client call. I don't know who we're. Brains are jumbled these days. We got a lot of exciting things going on. So
yeah, nonetheless, tying a little bow just like your little neckerchief. It's so cute.
Thanks. Well,
I actually was I knew you were wearing one today, and I was gonna put one on to just like punk you so that we were like twinsies. But then I was like, no.
I mean, I would have been okay with it though.
Yeah.
And twinning is winning.
I've never heard that, but I'll use it now. But so I hope you guys can take the information we talked about here today. You can proceed forward with your projects and your manufacturing endeavors, and, just understand how to tighten them up and make it the most successful bulk run you can.
Yeah. And if you are running into challenges, if you are stuck somewhere, like, shoot us a DM. Reach out to us. We are here. We are on socials. We answer DMs. We answer emails. Send an email to hello@thesourcinggals and say, I am stuck. I really need help. Or again, we're here to help. We're here to help. We want to launch more products to market. We want to help you get there. So thank you for listening. Follow us on all the channels.
Yes.
Like and share.
Yes, we would love if you would follow us on, we just talked about this, but we launched TikTok.
Oh, yes.
Go and follow us on TikTok. It's a little bit more fun content.
Correct.
Different than Instagram, but follow us over there, and we can't wait to see you in all of the many variations of how we show up online.
Yes. Amazing. Okay, well, we will see you guys back next week on The Sourcing Gals.